Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Virgo. Because today we are not speaking at volume. What came through for you today arrived in a whisper, and it deserves to be delivered the same way. There are things that lose something essential when they are spoken too loudly, things that belong to the register of the almost said, the nearly spoken, the words that have been living in someone's chest for so long, they have taken on the shape of the bones around them. This is one of those things. So, wherever you are right now, turn down the noise around you if you can, not because what I am about to say is fragile, but because it is precise. And precision requires quiet to be heard correctly. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. And if what I am describing lands somewhere in you that recognizes it, subscribe because we do not skim the surface here. We go all the way down. Let's go. There is a sentence living in someone right now that has never been finished, not because they do not know how it ends. They know exactly how it ends, have known perhaps for longer than is comfortable to admit. But knowing how something ends and being willing to say it aloud are two entirely different countries separated by a border that is not made of distance but of courage, of the specific, rare, deeply personal courage of making yourself visible in the one direction you have been most careful to remain hidden. That sentence is about you. It begins somewhere in the middle of their ordinary days, in the gap between one thought and the next, in the sudden ambush of a memory that has no business arriving at that particular moment, in the way their chest does something involuntary when your name surfaces in a conversation. It begins there in the body before it has been invited into language. And it has been beginning there quietly, repeatedly, with the stubborn persistence of water finding its way through stone for longer than either of you may fully realize. What has been missing is not the feeling. The feeling has been present for a long time. What has been missing is the form, the shape of the sentence that could carry the feeling without either diminishing it through inadequate language or overwhelming through the exposure of something so raw, so undefended, so genuinely and vulnerably true that the speaking of it feels like stepping off a ledge in the dark without knowing how far the drop is. They are standing at the edge of that ledge right now, have been standing there, perhaps, for longer than standing is comfortable, looking down, looking back, looking down again. Let's talk about the particular architecture of the unspoken, because there is a structure to it that most people never examine. They simply experience it as silence, as absence, as the frustrating blankness of a person who seems to feel something but will not name it. But from the inside of the silence, there is nothing blank about it. From the inside, the unspoken is one of the most densely populated interior spaces a person can inhabit. Every draft of the unsaid thing lives there. Every version that was composed and then abandoned. Every moment when the words nearly came and then retreated, not out of indifference, but out of the terror of imperfection, of saying it wrong, of finding that the feeling, once exposed to air and to your response, is received differently than it was stored. That the tender thing they have been keeping carefully in the dark does not survive the light in the form they hoped it would. The fear is not that you will reject them outright. That fear would be simpler to navigate rejection, at least, is clear. It has a shape you can grieve and move beyond. No, The fear that holds this person at the edge of their unsaid sentence is more subtle and more paralyzing than outright rejection. It is the fear of the partial response, of being received warmly but not fully, of offering everything and finding that what comes back is something genuine but something less, something that honors the offering but cannot quite match it, something that leaves them more exposed than before without the full correspondence they were reaching for. That fear is a sophisticated fear. It belongs to a person who has thought about this carefully, who has turned the possibilities over with enough thoroughness to know which outcome they can survive and which one they are not sure they can. It is not the fear of someone who is casual about what they feel. It is the fear of someone for whom what they feel is so significant that the risk of its imperfect reception has become, at certain moments, almost too large to step through. Now, what is it exactly that this person is trying to find the language for? It is not simply that they are attracted to you. Attraction has its own vocabulary, well worn and readily available, and a person who felt only attraction would not be standing at this particular ledge with this particular silence around them. Attraction is common enough that most people have learned to say it imperfectly and often too early, long before they have really examined what they mean. What this person is trying to find the language for is something that does not have a common vocabulary. Whew. Something that sits at the intersection of several feelings simultaneously, none of which individually quite captures the full shape of what is actually being experienced. There is something that resembles longing, but it is not only longing. Something that resembles admiration, but it is not only admiration. Something that resembles the particular ache of wanting someone's nearness, not just their presence, but their specific, irreplaceable nearness. The kind that cannot be approximated by anyone else, regardless of how suitable they might seem on paper. And underneath all of those things, layered in a place that even they may not have fully accessed yet, something that resembles recognition. The deep, disorienting, cannot be argued with recognition of encountering someone whose existence seems to address something in you that you did not know was unanswered, like the specific silence that fills a room when the right word is finally found for something that had no name until that moment, like the click of something slotting into place that did not announce itself as missing until the presence of the thing that fills it makes the absence retroactively felt. That is what they are carrying. That is the sentence they do not know how to finish. Let's talk about you for a moment, because you are not a passive object in this. You are a person who has been, whether or not you are fully aware of it, registering the weight of this unspoken thing. There is a particular way the unsaid announces itself, even in its silence. A quality in the air between two people when something significant is being held back by one of them. A texture to interactions that are otherwise ordinary, a slight excess of care, a fractionally longer pause before a response, a quality of attention that is just different enough from casual to be felt without being legible. The body picks this up long before the mind has assembled an explanation for it. Long before there is anything concrete enough to name. You may have been living in the ambient pressure of this person's unspoken thing without knowing that is what you were feeling. That low grade sense of something unresolved in a direction you could not quite locate. The recurring pull of your attention towards something or someone without a fully satisfying explanation for why. The dreams, perhaps, that left a residue, not the content of them, but the feeling tone, the particular emotional weather of waking from them into a morning that seemed, for no articulable reason, to have that person's shape in it. The unsaid lives in the field between two people, not only in the person holding it. Both bodies are carrying it, one as source, one as receiver of a transmission that has no words yet but has been broadcasting continuously through every other available channel. Here is the thing about words that have been held too long in a body that genuinely means them. They accumulate pressure, not in the aggressive sense, not the pressure of something demanding to explode, but in the way of water behind a wall, steady, patient, applying its weight with a consistency that does not vary regardless of whether the wall acknowledges it. The water does not insist, it simply persists, it simply is. And walls, even well constructed walls, even walls maintained with conscious effort and genuine intention, are subject, over sufficient time, to the mathematics of sustained pressure. Something is shifting in the wall this person has built around their unsaid sentence, not collapsing, nothing so dramatic, but a change in the quality of the resistance. A fatigue, perhaps, in the maintenance of the held back, a growing sense that the cost of continued silence has begun to exceed the cost of the exposure they have been avoiding. This happens at different rates in different people. For some, it comes as sudden decision the moment the scale tips and the choice is made in an instant that was decades in the making. For others, it comes as gradual erosion, the wall thinning increment by increment until the words begin to find small passages through, appearing first as implication, then as near statement, then finally as the thing itself, naked and undeniable, and out in the air between you, where it can no longer be retrieved or denied. Either way, through sudden decision or through gradual erosion, the direction of what is moving seems to be toward the surface, toward the exterior, toward you. What do you do with this? Not in the strategic sense, there is no strategy appropriate to the receiving of something this genuine, and any response assembled from strategy will miss the register of what is being offered entirely. But in the human sense, in the sense of someone who is about to be handed something they did not ask to be handed, and whose life will be different in ways both visible and invisible once they have held it. The first thing, and this matters more than it sounds, is to resist the impulse to respond to the declaration before it has fully been made. There is a particular reflex in people who sense something coming, particularly people who have been carrying their own version of something unspoken, to rush toward the moment of its arrival, to fill the remaining silence with their own words before the other person's words have had the chance to land completely. Whew. As though the anticipation of the thing is so charged that the actual arrival of it becomes almost secondary to the relief of the tension breaking. Let it land. Let it be fully said before you move toward it. The patience of those last few moments of the other person's vulnerability, the space you hold for them to finish completely without rescue, is itself a form of profound receiving. The second thing is this: whatever you feel in response to what they offer, feel it honestly, not the performed version of what you think you should feel, not the managed version of what would be most convenient or most kind or most true to the story of yourself as someone who has things under control. The actual response, the one that lives below the performance, the one your body produces before your mind has had the chance to edit it. That response, raw and unmanaged and entirely your own, is the only thing worth giving back, because what they are offering has been stripped of every performance, every management, every protection. And it deserves to be met by something equally real. There is a room inside every significant human connection that neither person has yet entered. Not because the room is locked, not because either of them is incapable of walking through the door, but because the door has required, up until this point, more of both of them than both of them have been simultaneously ready to give. Two people approaching a door from opposite sides, each reaching for the handle only when the other seems to have stepped back. The particular frustration of arriving at the threshold together and then retreating separately back into the safety of the corridor. Something is different about this particular approach. The person who is carrying the unsaid sentence seems, for the first time in some time, or perhaps for the first time ever, to be moving toward the door without looking back at the corridor, without keeping their exit visible, without the particular energy of someone who is approaching while simultaneously preparing to retreat. They are moving toward the door with both hands, with the full weight of what they have been carrying, with the sentence that has been living in them finally ready to become sound. And you are already on the other side of the door. You have been there longer than you may have realized, waiting in your own particular way for exactly this, for someone to arrive at the door with their whole self and knock with the particular knock of someone who is not testing whether they will be answered, but simply announcing that they are here. They are here, Virgo. The knock is coming. And when it does, and when you open the door and find them standing there with everything they have been unable to say until now, finally present in their face and their voice and the specific way they are looking at you, let the room exist. Let both of you walk into it. It has been waiting for exactly this long. It has been waiting for exactly the two of you, and it is finally ready to be inhabited.